This is just a quick update video on the video that I did about the bases that I created for some of my sculptures. It's these things if you haven't seen. These are things that I use for things that I sell online, but also use them for my own projects. I've always wanted like a kind of a decorative base like that, so I find these really useful for projects and they sort of give it quite a nice look, I think. So I've been making loads of these because I've been selling stuff online, but I've been running into some problems with air bubbles on the casts. So if you look at this box, and this box actually is all of the rejects that I've had. It looks like I've got loads and loads of rejects, but actually I have cast probably, I don't know, gazillions of these things at this stage, so this only represents a tiny fraction of the bases that I've actually made. A lot of the bases come out fine, but as you can see on the edges here, I'm getting some air bubbles trapped on the surface of the casts, which are a bit of a problem. Because obviously you want these things to have a nice smooth finish, you know, and floors like this just really do stand out. So I wanted to find a way of combating that and getting around the problem. Now for casting, often people will actually powder their moulds, and they'll use like baby powder to put in the mould, and that will help the resin flow in, and it tends to prevent air bubbles forming in casts. Now the problem I have here, of course, is that these are black and baby powder's white, so if I put this in the mould it's going to compromise the look of the piece. So I was sort of thinking, well, what can I do here to try and fix this? Now you may remember a while back I did a video on casting some pewter, and in that video someone commented saying that they found that graphite powder was a very good way of getting a nice finish on pewter. So I happen to have bought some of that for a project that I've got coming up. So I thought, well, maybe this will work. I mean, it's not exactly black, it's sort of slate grey, but maybe this would work in terms of getting rid of the air bubbles. So I've done a few casts with that, and actually they came out really, really well. So here's an example, and as you can see it has got a less black finish to it. It's a sort of slightly metallic, I mean I guess pencils are made of graphite, so it's got that kind of sheen to it, and it actually looks really, really nice. And crucially, as you can see, there aren't any air bubbles in this, even on the surfaces which are like an overlap where you may find air sort of accumulating as it rises through the silicon. There's nothing on these edges either, so that seemed pretty promising. Now I probably could have got away with this, you know, the sort of grey look looks pretty cool, but I really wanted the black version to be the main one that I created. So I was thinking, well, what else can I do? So I started searching online, and I came across this stuff, which is black mica powder. I think it's black pearl, and this seems to be used for resin casting as well. I've never used it myself, but given this is billed as sort of a black pearl colour, I wondered if this might do the trick for my bases. So I've ordered some, and I'm going to have a go. So what I'm doing is just brushing this into the mould with a brush, and you're just making sure that I get full coverage. Then I'm sort of bashing the mould to get rid of the excess, and I'm just going to pour some of my resin in and see what happens. So I've left these for about an hour to cure, so let's get these out and see what they look like. This type of mould uses a sort of plug on the end just so I can easily release the air. So the initial look's looking pretty good. If I pull the edge of the mould back here, you can see this overhang is very, very smooth. Now often I would get air bubbles accumulating on that area. Usually it doesn't really matter because that's going to be upside down when the base is standing upright. You wouldn't really notice them, so that was less of an issue, but it bodes well for the rest of the cast. Okay, so actually this looks really good, so I'm quite pleased with this. I can't see any air bubbles at all, which is fantastic, and it seems to have the same sort of sheen as the regular cast that I would get out without using the powder. Here it is compared to the graphite one. There's a definite difference in colour, so that's looking pretty good. So I'm just going to try my other cast here as well. And again, initially this is looking pretty good. Right, so this one we've got a bit of an imperfection on the upper edge here, and I think what's happened is that there was an accumulation of powder in the mould there, so I think that's probably disrupted the finish slightly. But otherwise this is looking pretty good. Again, I can't see any obvious air bubbles, so that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is just give this a quick go on the buffing wheel, just to give it a bit of a polish. All of the casts I would do from these moulds I would always polish up to get a nice shine. So if these polish up in the same way, then this is probably the solution I need. So yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. As you can see, this is polished up to quite a nice finish. So yeah, I just wanted to share this issue in case it was useful to anyone else. Obviously baby powder is used quite frequently to powder your moulds, but if you need a different colour, then I guess you have to be a little bit more creative. So that's pretty cool. That seems to have solved that issue. So yep, that's just a quick one. So thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you next time.